Hello, I'm Janice Cotter, the gallery manager at Pomo Arts. Welcome to episode 2 of the Artist Sessions. It's so nice to be with you again with a completely new lineup of artists for discussions. Like most spaces, Pomo Arts is discovering our new normal and creating a path that allows us to continue strengthening our connection to the arts in the community, even through these extraordinary times. As I mentioned last week, Pomo Arts is shifting our gallery, educational programming and events online, and our exhibitions are going digital. We are still engaging with artists to share interviews and talks about their work in settings like this. Online classes are starting soon, and we will continue to find innovative approaches to bring the arts to you. Tonight's panel of artists are painters who have all shown their artwork at Pomo Arts in solo, duo, and collective exhibitions. Although their painting styles and subject matter are quite different, these artists have much in common. I'm looking forward to learning more about the ways their intense connections to the natural world have inspired their artwork, how they've juggled their careers in other fields with their passion for creating, and their experience with the business of art. I'll give you a brief introduction to each of the artists, but you can find their full biographies on their bio page, on their profile page on Pomo Arts Artist Directory, and more information about one of their recent exhibitions in the digital gallery we've created and put on the Artist Sessions page. Both are at pomoarts.ca. Kimberly Blackstock, she developed a passion for painting and illustrating when she was in the design and illustration program at Capilano University. She's exhibited her work throughout Metro Vancouver and gained gallery representation at an early age. Eventually, her painting became a balancing act with her design career, and studio time was outweighed. In 2012, Kimberly stepped away from her job as a designer to pick up her brushes again and focus solely on being an artist. In the past 8 years, she's become a passionate and prolific painter. When she's not in her own studio, she inspires and instructs people of all ages to find creative motivation, seek new ways of seeing, and gain technical skills to develop and share their own creative visions. April Lacheur. In 2007, she was creating art as a hobby while working full-time as a registered nurse in a post-open heart surgery in Victoria. Fast forward to today, and April is now working as a full-time artist, having traded in her stethoscope for a paintbrush. April creates colorful acrylic paintings that reflect her deep connection with West Coast nature, especially trees. She works from her backyard studio among the trees in Maple Ridge and is often kept company by her dog Maple, who of course was named after a tree. Sarah Ronald. Sarah received her Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from Okanagan University in Kelowna. After living and working in Vancouver for several years, Sarah and her husband bought a home with an art studio in Port Coquitlam. Over the years, she's worked in a variety of arts and related environments, including galleries, theaters, and art centers. And since 2019, she's been an artist in residence at the Roundhouse Community Center in Vancouver. Sarah has exhibited around the province in group and solo shows in both community and commercial galleries, and her work is held in private collections around the world. Welcome, Kimberly, April, and Sarah.
Hello.
Hello, it's such a pleasure to have you here tonight. you've all worked in other careers, and each of you has or is in the process of transitioning to making art a full-time pursuit. Kimberly, I'm going to start with you. You had said in one of your writings that when you lose a part of yourself and make a life-changing decision to gain it back, you become stronger, more passionate, more dedicated to staying true to yourself. So was this in reference to your transition to becoming a full-time artist, and was your transition abrupt? Can you tell us more about it?
So when I graduated from design and illustration at Cap University, I was sharing it. I was doing part design mainly, and well, I was working 4 days a week and doing painting 2 days a week, so I had 1 day off. And I did that for many years after I graduated, and continued to do that until all of a sudden I got pregnant after getting married and getting our home and everything. And I had to stop painting. I was painting in oil at the time. And then I just didn't paint for quite a long time because I had babies and they were running around and taking up my life. And I just was was doing design. So at that point, I really needed to figure out what it was that I was very passionate about in life. And I knew after a bunch of painting in the evening, late at night, that's what it was. And so once I decided to do that, I just knew there was no turning back. So I was just fully there. And that's kind of what I meant by that, was once I made that decision and I knew that was the right one, it was just all or nothing. And it's been all the whole time.
So you just quit your job and started doing art full time then?
Well, no, I had to supplement it because I knew that you don't just make a living right away. You don't just drop everything. So I started reacquainting myself with the art world and getting back out there, but I also needed an income to support myself to get to where I wanted to get to. So I did quit my design job. And then I chose the things that I were really passionate about, and that was art and karate. So I became an art instructor and a karate instructor, and that helped me to get to where I was, I am now. And then it just slowly worked more and more towards spending more time in my studio.
Thank you. April, you're trend field for quite a long time doing both, weren't you? How did you manage the transition process?
Yeah, so I was sort of playing that balancing act between nursing and artist for about 11 years. And so when I first started, art was more a hobby. I kind of started selling a little bit on the side, hanging at restaurants, doing little markets, those kind of things. And to be honest, in the beginning, I never really thought I was going to be doing it full time. I didn't sort of initially set out to plan to leave nursing entirely, but over that 11 years, the passion for art grew stronger and the passion for nursing became less, I suppose. And so I knew that that was the direction I was going. So it was only about, at the end of August, it'll actually be 2 years since I've left nursing entirely. So it certainly was like a slow transition from one to the other. But I think that it was a really great way to do that because, like Kimberly said, it's not something that just happens right away. Oftentimes people don't just like dive in and it all works out. It's a slow growing process to get your work out there and get yourself known and those kind of things. And you do need income for living, but also for developing your business, because there's a lot of cost involved in building an art business. And I don't know that a lot of people realize that from the beginning, but there's the marketing and the printing costs if you're doing reproductions, and if you're doing exhibits and shows, there's costs for all of that kind of thing too. So it's nice to have that sort of quote unquote real job or day job to supplement those things while you're building that business. So I think it's a really great way to do it, to have something else to balance it with and do kind of that slow progression versus diving in entirely, because it's very stressful, I think, to 100% be reliant on your art practice right away. So I'm grateful for the path that I was able to be on with that. Oh, I think Janice is freezing a little bit, is she?
Sarah, I know that you.
Uh-oh.
Janice, come back to us.
Sorry, what?
Janice is
Or
freezing.
doing your. Sorry, what?
You're freezing up.
Have you lost me?
I-
Oh, sorry.
Technical difficulty, totally.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
No?
On and off, you're spotty. It says
You can't
Janice
hear
Potter's network or bandwidth is low.
Okay.
There you go.
I got my, yeah, my Wi-Fi. Sorry?
Janice having a hard time.
Okay. Can you hear me, Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that you've been working for a while to try to work to do less of your other job and more of just a straight art career. How are you managing that right now?
So I can echo what the other artists are saying about balancing between a day job towards your art practice. I've just this last year, about a year ago, left my day job with the intention to fully pursue my art practice, supplementing it with more part-time work. I went through a year, almost a year of really intensely working on my retail, building my retail line. So I last year went full into that, but was also having to work part-time. In the end, at the end of last year, I was fully burned out, and I did really good, like pat myself on the back about how it went, but my art isn't necessarily retail. Some of it is, but it's not always based on retail. So my goal as an artist is not necessarily to be selling in that way. So I actually kind of did some self-reflection earlier this year and decided that I would go back to having a steady job, because that would allow me not to be stressed about wanting to make the work that I want to create. So the work that I'm aiming to do is not really about selling. It's more, I'm hoping to go more into the gallery scene that's not necessarily commercial or retail. So long term. So yes, I'm kind of in the same spot, but I'm spreading it out longer, I think, now after having a year of really intense focus.
And you've changed your path slightly, going from retail to more exhibition focus.
Well, it's funny because a couple years ago I was exhibition focused. I was having solo shows, and then I got it in my brain that the only way to not have a day job is I have to be selling. So I went into full retail mode and made lots of very pretty stuff, which I stand behind it. I love it, but always in the back of my mind is the conservation side of me, which is why I'm an artist. And I kind of got off that path knowingly to focus on retail. So after my time in doing retail, I kind of reassessed and I was like, no, I'm just going to keep going down that focus, and it's pulling me away from my more sort of installation community-based work. So I just have a different trajectory, and I kind of got caught into the retail, which I don't like. I have retail shops. I'm going to continue to have them. I'm just not going to focus on expanding that further. It's just kind of get back on track with my original work.
Right.
So
right.
It's a pivot or return.
So all three of you, if you were, with the experience that you have now, looking back, what would be the main bit of advice you would give your earlier career self about becoming a professional artist? Kimberly?
So I wouldn't base it on any sort of mistakes, but I can tell you some things that I think worked really, really well. If you're just starting out, I think it's really important to find some artists or make relationship with some artists and really just sit down and ask them all the questions you want to ask. I still to this day go back to the answers that were given to me when I did that. I talked to a few people, some that I knew really well, instructors from when I was in school, successful students that I had been with in class, and other people that I was just given their name. I learned so much from them. And I always tell my students that they can always come to me and ask me questions. I'm always open for that. So now everybody knows, come ask me questions. No, I just think that there's a lot of really good advice, and it really kind of keeps you on track and makes you realistic with what to expect when you're starting out. So I think that's probably one of the best things that you can do. So that would be my number one advice.
Yeah, really good advice, because I think that we can like learn from the people that have carved the path before us. But then, like Sarah said, it's like you try the different things and then you find the path that suits you. But you can't really know that until you try all the different things and see where it fits with you. And I think the thing that I would, but looking back and that I would sort of tell myself is that, and similar to what you're saying, Sarah, is that if you know what path you want to be on, stick with it and don't let other people influence that. And I think, Sarah, you've probably like been reflecting and learning some of that, and we all have. I think there's a lot of different ways to be an artist. There's a lot of different ways to be a successful artist. It doesn't always have to be the goal that you have to be full-time either. I think a lot of people think like, oh, I'm not successful if I don't go full-time, or I'm not a real artist if I'm not full-time. And I don't think that's right either. So I think always bringing back to your why of why you're making the work and why you're putting it out there in the world, and just being true to the path that you feel like is right for you, and not being influenced by what you see. Like, we're really influenced by all the other artists on Instagram and all these groups that we're a part of, and meeting other artists at other shows and what are they doing, and it's great to be influenced and have people to ask questions to, but yeah, just bring it back to what you want ultimately and not get sort of sidetracked by those things. And when I look at the path that I've been on, I can honestly say that it's been the right path for me, even though I've had people tell me I'm doing things wrong, or I should be this way or should be that way. I've been doing it long enough now that I feel really confident that I am on the path that I should be on. But I think when you're starting out, it's hard to have that confidence, but just stick with what feels right to you and your heart, I think, basically.
I concur. My thought about this was like, don't let anyone, anyone sway you, even whether it's other artists or art groups or even friends and family. Like, there's been a lot of stuff that I've done because someone's like, oh, I really like that, you should do it like this. And then I'm like, no. But then a week later, I'm like, actually, that's a good idea. So I start making it that way. And it's like, no, I wouldn't have come to that myself originally. So like, yeah, having a really clear idea of where you want to go, even if like I'm in a state right now personally where I'm kind of rejigging everything and figuring out where I'm going, but I know that the examination of it is the important part, and it's mine. Like, I'm not letting other influences necessarily. I mean, there's other artists I like, but yeah, it's really interesting. Everyone is different. Maybe that's our summary for advice. Everyone's is different.
But I really admire you, Sarah, for like figuring that out and then deciding to own it. You know, I think that's the stage that you're in, that you've done the research, you've tried the things, you know what feels right to you, and you're bringing it back to that. And like, no excuses, no apologies about it. Like, good for you. I think that's great.
Thanks, April.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, good for you too.
So for our next question, April, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
For years, you've been really active, having your work in large and small markets like Circle Craft, street festivals, and so on. So during this time now where everything is so different, how will you pivot things in your art business to adapt to this current situation?
That is the big question that we're all trying to figure out right now. Yeah, for me, I think in the way that I have that I run my art business, I sort of have three different outlets for sharing my work and making money for my business, essentially. So one is festivals, group shows, public gallery shows, that kind of like showing the work and in-person things. The next one would be selling in small shops that are supporting local artists. And then the third one would be online. So really two of those three things have essentially disappeared at this point. And so now my focus is very much, okay, I have one outlet, let's do that really well. So I guess the pivot for me is just putting 100% of my effort into online. And to be honest, like it all felt very messy and uncomfortable in the beginning, of course. And I think it did for all of us, not really knowing where things were at. And I, spent a couple weeks glued to the news and all the things. But when I came back to, quote unquote, real life, I've just decided that it's actually really nice to have like one thing to focus on. It's like choose one and do it really well. It's kind of nice because otherwise I always felt like I'm frantic and spread out and trying to do too many things at once. And I think a lot of us do. So now it's just like, right, you got online, what are you going to do with it? So for me, it's like making sure my website is really working well for me, doing a few different things on my social media, trying to do, doing more touching base with my followers on my newsletter more and offering more, more art and more things of service for them. And the big thing for me right now is video. So I think online, we had video. I haven't done a lot of video in the past. And so I was like, right, this is something I've always thought I should do. Now it's my time. So I'm learning a little bit more. I'm filming videos of, I've just released a new collection of work. And so I've been filming videos of each of my pieces, talking about my process, my inspiration, like what would I say to somebody if I was at an in-person event about this piece, and then do that as a video. And it's kind of neat because I think once you have that video and you share it with people, you're actually giving more people an experience like that, because only so many people can come to your events, whether it be they're too busy to come or they don't live there or whatever. It's kind of like a neat opportunity to share that experience with more. And so far the reaction to my videos has been really good. Like people have enjoyed the sort of experience of sort of that more personal kind of experience with my art. One of the events that I was supposed to be a part of is the Maple Ridge Studio Tour, which is in a few weeks. And of course that's canceled. And so I've decided I'm making, I've just filmed it. So I'm just editing it, a virtual studio tour. So I'm kind of excited about, sharing that and seeing how that's, how people respond to that. So it's kind of like, well, here's this thing I was going to do. How can I now do it online is essentially sort of how I'm thinking. Right. But I am really sad that all the in-person events are getting canceled, because I find personally, like I know a lot of artists are introverts, but I wouldn't say that I'm an introvert. And I really get a lot of energy from being around other people and talking about my work in person. And so having that not be a part of maybe this entire year, I don't know, that I'm a little bit concerned about how I'm going to sort of replenish the well of the energy that those events give me. So, but we'll see. New things are exciting too. So.
Sarah, are you, you said you're still doing some retail and selling your work that way. Are you changing anything in how you're doing your business? And are you trying any new ways to promote or sell your art right now?
It's funny, tied into my review this year so far. I kind of decided this year to not really focus on sales and to focus on developing the work. So that said, I'm still I still have an online shop. I have retail outlets. Some of them are still doing like sales for pickup. I need to reach out to them. I'm not sure who all's open, but so I'm still it's still there. I've updated my shop a little bit, but I'm just not focused on creating new work and putting a ton of stuff into it. I did have some events that got canceled as well that I was looking forward to. Like one was this month, I think this past weekend. So I was hoping to I have a lot of work for that. So at some point this year, I need to get that onto my shop and push it out. But at this point, I'm just kind of content to still be in my little bubble and creating and building my new sort of work right now. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Kimberly, you're represented by another gallery downtown,
Mhm.
and are you still selling your work online and in other venues?
No. So right now I'm kind of out of luck. No, that's not true. So I'm represented by Artworks Gallery in Vancouver, and the doors are closed, but they are open and active, and they're there like for anybody that wants to view work online and all that stuff. So they're there. But mainly for me, that's I'm just in exhibitions and shows, and I don't have an online gallery myself or anything like that. So I'm just right now just focusing on my work, not on making an online gallery or anything. So I'm just leaving that as it is, and we'll see what happens down the road. Hopefully all those art galleries stay open and all that stuff is there when we get out of this. So yeah.
Oh, well. Sarah, you mentioned that you're currently focused on a return to your love of drawing and storytelling. Are you incorporating any new techniques in the work any new techniques or mediums in this work you're creating?
Well, right now, okay, I'll do a quick backstory. At the end of last year's burnout, I had this brainstorm to do a project that was something I personally wanted to make, and it ended up being an illustrated, it's going to become a book once I can get the images scanned, but it's so far 27 illustrations, and they're white pencil crayon on graphics drafting film, so it's white on white. And this, I chose those mediums. I've always used drafting film, but the white on the drafting film because I wanted to kind of allude to a deeper level of, a deeper level of experience with this story, basically. But the process of doing that, of creating a storyline and a whole developing it, was so good for me. Even though it was just for me personally, it just like clicked. I'm like, oh, I need a progression, and it needs to tell a story, and it needs to be one thing to the next to the next. So like it kind of lit a bulb in my brain that, oh, I'm not flailing and just making portraits. I'm telling a story through the images and through a collection, and the collection ends. So right now, that was kind of one project that really set it in stone for me to keep working on this. So the format of the storytelling, and then the materials. So in the materials, I was using a lot of resin last year, and I got full burnout on resin. I'm done with it, at least for the next long time. So I'm like, how can I do work without the resin? So this is why I got back to drawing. And so between that project, the book project, and then the materials, I'm kind of now in this stage of developing what is the next sort of storyline that I'm going to be working through. So it wasn't quite because of COVID or anything like that, but this year has been about exploring materials, and I'm still developing it, but yeah. Hopefully that answers it.
Yeah, totally. Kimberly, are you using this time to try anything new in your practice, using any new techniques and mediums?
That's exactly the opposite, because I am always exploring new stuff when I'm teaching, because my students keep coming back, like the kids and the youths, and they always want to do new things. So when I'm teaching, I'm always exploring new things, and then I'm incorporating them into my work. But I was at a point where I discovered a lot of the things I really, really loved, and my new body of work has that in it. So it was perfect timing, because now I'm stuck here at home and I'm like working with what I like, and I know exactly what I need. I don't need to experiment anymore. So for me, it's kind of, I'm more focused on my certain materials that I'm working with right now. So yeah, although I have to say, it's really hard to get wood panels, and I'm not trying to like put a panic out there, but I'm trying to get 5-foot panels, and there's none around in all of Canada.
Oh no.
It's like, sucks. I can get them like custom made, but I can't order them. But anyway.
Well, maybe all the artists got wood panels instead of toilet paper.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh dear. April, so have you had an opportunity during this time to try anything new in your practice?
To be honest, I haven't actually been making a lot of art since this whole thing started. I've had a couple of commissions that I've just like been finishing up, but as far as making new work, I've been really focused on sharing my latest work as opposed to making new work. So for me, my normal sort of flow of the year is that I kind of hunker down in the winter after the Christmas season is over, and I paint a whole bunch, and I usually make a new collection that I will sort of release and share in the spring in time for the studio tour. And then I'm kind of like, I've got that work to focus on promoting. And so I was already sort of primed to do that. I had all the work ready. So it was kind of just finishing, you know, painting edges and wiring and all of that kind of little stuff, and photographing it, editing the photos, getting it onto the website. Like, I think all the other artists out there probably know that that's like a ton of work, and it just takes a lot of time, and, you know, filming the videos and doing the newsletters. And so, but that's okay. I actually really enjoy the business side and promotion side of art. And I know that that's kind of unusual for artists, but I actually really enjoy that. So when my head was kind of spinning from all this and I felt a bit lost as to what I was supposed to be doing, I was like, right, I have these tasks and I could focus on those. Whereas I feel like I really have to be in the mood to paint. And it's really challenging as a working artist who needs to produce work to, you know, pay their mortgage, et cetera, to like have this pressure of making work, which is why a lot of artists don't necessarily want to do that as a full-time job. So I have personally found the stress of the current situation to be a bit of a block for me. I know some artists are really like, I've got all this time and I'm making a bunch of work, and other artists I've spoken to have been like, I can't make work right now. So we're all kind of in different places with that and what we need. But so yeah, I'm okay with that though. Like I'm being nice to myself about that, and just like feeling like I'm doing a really good job on the business side. The art stuff will come. It's all good. There's time, like don't panic. And I'm feeling now like, because I've got all of the things I've sort of wanted done as far as the videos and the promotion stuff for my new work done, this coming week, I'm kind of thinking like, ooh, I think it might be time to play in the studio. And I'm excited about that there is some more time, because normally I spend my year sort of getting ready for this event, then this event, then this event, then this event. And there's always like this timeline to it. And I kind of feel like that timeline is like gone for the year now, which just feels really weird. So I feel like I'm in this not really sure place right now, but I'm feeling like it's coming. So I think, you know, next week maybe I'll start making some new work. But I'm going to allow myself some time to play, which I'm really excited about. So have I started using some new materials? No, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to, because right now it's nice to not have the pressure to, like, you know, have to be preparing for an event. So the time is now to try. And I think that's what a lot of artists are finding now, is they have this new time to try different materials and stuff. And so it's kind of an exciting time that way too. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Kimberly, as an instructor, you know, there's so many benefits to practicing art and taking art in. What role do you think that art plays at a time like this?
I think it's different for everybody, because I hear people saying that they're enjoying seeing all this creativity out there, and it's bringing them happiness and something a little different to look at. And I get that. I think for a lot of people that creating art right now, even if you're not an artist, just creating is an amazing outlet right now for people who are stressed or worried or anxious. There's so many people I know for my adult classes that come to my classes that are retired, and they're like, I always wanted to try to, you know, do this, or I always wanted to paint, or I did a little bit of painting and I just want to get back into it. And then they love it and they just enjoy it so much. And there's a reason for that. And it's good for their mental health. It's good for everybody's mental health. That's where I think it's most beneficial right now, is for people to create if they have that desire to.
Yeah. Yeah. Sarah, do you have any thoughts on that? On what role you think art plays at a time like this?
Absolutely. So I am a really big fan of all of these online workshops that are coming up, free for people. Like, I mean, I know the Art Center's got online workshops. You guys are, I'm not up to speed, but I know you're having your workshops online. I think that's really important because it's accessing all these people who can't go out, but it's accessing more like people who maybe aren't interested in arts normally are now thinking, oh, here's a thing I can try today with the kids or whatnot. I was just saying the other day to someone that, like, I think the really important thing is that you do just create. It doesn't matter if you're an artist or not, like the work, anything that you make right now is like a record of your daily experience. This is such a weird time to be in. And it's like, imagine all the creative work being made, whether we see it in the world or not. It's like documenting a time in human history. And it's such a unique time in human history to document, like even just journaling. Like you look back at this years from now and be like, I can't believe this was happening and we all survived, or, you know, we all went through it this way and this is what we did. And like, you know, there's going to be headlines in the history books that are going to be nice and neatly packaged, but it's like the art's what tells you what actually happened. Like you look back at art history and it's like the art history, you can get so much more information about what was going on by looking at what the artists were doing than what was printed in the newspapers or the records. And it's like, even if your work doesn't end up on those records, like create it anyway for your family, right? Or your whoever, your friends. It's a time to reflect. And it's similar to Kimberly. It's like, just create it because you're documenting your experience as a human right now.
Yeah.
April, did you want to speak to that, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I've been having a lot of the same thoughts, so I'm just like, yes, that's totally what I've been thinking. And it's really going to be interesting to see, like Sarah said, we won't see all of it, but we'll see some of it. And it's like, what is the work that's being created now that will document this, that will maybe be some of that bigger art that we see? And I don't know, that's kind of exciting. The other thing I wanted to add to that, as far as what role I think that art plays, I personally think that people are starting to see a little bit more value in art right now. Like they're spending time in their homes. They understand the value maybe more of being surrounded by things that are meaningful versus stuff. I think that people are switching maybe to more of a mentality of wanting to support people in their community versus sort of things that are, you know, mass produced and that kind of thing. I think there's been a movement towards that anyways, but I think that this is going to sort of help that movement along, and that's kind of exciting. And yeah, I'm personally seeing that people are really interested in art, and they're still really interested in buying art. I'm really grateful that my work has been selling through this pandemic. I know a lot of other artists that are selling work right now. I think a lot of artists think, oh, well, nobody has money, or, you know, people are too stressed, and nobody's buying anything. But I don't think that's true of the entire population. And I think that for artists that do have a goal of selling work, I would just share with them, like, don't give up on that. And know that I think now more than ever, people are valuing art and wanting to have those special things that mean them, that tell a story in their home that they can look at and feel connected to. Because I think what's happening now is a lot of people are bringing it back to the values that they have, the core values that they have in their life, because all the other noise is kind of gone right now. So, and it's coming back to like what's most important, right? And art can make us feel emotions that are really important to us. Art can make us feel like there's a story, or like it reminds us of a time that is special. I mean, people might even want to be buying art now because it it's this time where we're all coming back together as a family, and we're supporting each other, and we want something to be a part of this time. I don't know, but I just think, I think it's a kind of an exciting time that people are valuing artists and art more right now. And I think that as artists, we need to continue to show up for our practices and our business and be sharing it with the world, not necessarily with the intention of you know, sale, and pushing that kind of thing, but just knowing, like, let people know that our work is available, and, you know, we're continuing to make work, and that the art is important, and continuing with that message. So yeah, I think it plays a role in people's lives on a daily basis. It's in their homes, and it's making them feel a certain way, and that feeling of comfort in your home right now is like really important. So
yeah, it is. So this next question, actually, April, I've got you up first again for this one. And it's that artists are finding so many creative ways to make work, lift spirits, offer hope to others during this pandemic. And for you, coming from a medical background, it must be difficult to see what's going on and know that you've worked with some of these people, and to actually have a really good insight into what they're going through. And I'm just wondering if you have found ways to, creative ways that you can lift spirits or offer hope to people.
Yeah, for sure. I've especially in the beginning of all this, I had a real like personal struggle with that sort of nurse self, artist self, and you know, that's an ongoing thing for me anyways, but it was really sort of heightened during all this. I felt really guilty in the first few weeks that I wasn't helping as a nurse, and I'm not able to help as a nurse because I don't have a license anymore. So, and yeah, I know a lot of nurses, and I know how it's affecting them, and I can really, like, I can place myself there and know how it probably might feel. And, you know, it's, so that was hard, but I really have been trying to focus on the attitude and mindset that art is also important. Art can also heal. The work of an artist is also really important in perhaps a more abstract way than being a frontline worker, you know, at somebody's bedside. But art is still really important as well. And so I really felt like I wanted to do something with my art that was sort of joyful and could help in this situation. So actually on Monday, I painted rainbow hearts in the windows of the Ridge Meadows Hospice. And that was fun. It took me all day. I painted like 16 windows in the front door, and yeah, it was actually a really interesting experience, because part of it I was painting, I'm like up on a ladder painting a window. I'm about 20 feet from where they're doing the drive up COVID-19 testing. So the patients roll up in their cars, and the nurse comes out in their full gear to do the testing of people in their cars. And here I am on my ladder painting rainbow hearts on the window. And it was just very, the juxtaposition of it all was just very crazy, right? I was like, wow, this is really full circle coming around. So, but yeah, it made me feel really good to do that project. The nurses were really excited about it. It's not, you know, it's an older building that doesn't have a lot of color or attraction to it. And so it really kind of brightened it up. And I had several nurses walk by and say, that's going to make me smile every day that I come to work. And I went, oh, okay, my work here is done. So that, you know, just that made me feel really good. So I think there's lots of opportunities right now for artists to be doing things, whether even just be sharing it online. Like really, I get the feedback from people all the time about how much they enjoy just seeing my work on Instagram right now, or, you know, a story that I shared that was joyful about art. Like, it doesn't need to be a big thing, but I think we just need to keep sharing so that people see those things and they're not constantly just like looking at negative or looking at the news or whatever. So yeah, keep putting it out there. We're able to do that. So that feels good.
Yeah. Sarah, there's been so many things, well, Sarah and Kimberly, so many different uplifting projects going on, like the Vancouver Mural Festival, inviting artists to paint the boarded up stores downtown, and all the throughout the world, musicians are giving online concerts from their balcony and from their balcony. Have either of you heard of any really interesting projects like this? Other that are helping people manage?
I'm mostly, again, I said this earlier, but I'm just a really big fan of everyone flipping to online. Like, again, accessing way more people. doing these free workshops, just, yeah, being really accessible to more people than if it was only offered in a center or a specific location via a program or a website. Like the push to get more people involved is the one that stands out to me. And I love all the little projects that people are coming up with, like the rocks and the rainbows, like all the things you leave. So when you go for a walk, you can kind of spot things. It's kind of like those like free little libraries that sort of came up a few years ago, where it's like, you don't expect it, and then all of a sudden there's this really wonderful little creative project out there. And it's just enough to kind of, oh yeah, art, right? This is art in the community that you're in. So yeah.
Kimberly, have you seen anything really interesting in that area?
Sort of the same idea, just really noticing everything is out there now available to us. Like just everything's, the whole world's come together, right? So, I mean, not even just in art, but in like all aspects of our life. Like everything's just there, everything's closer. Yeah, it's great to see that. It's great that we're all here together.
Yeah.
And
so
this,
next,
right?
Pardon me?
And this
And
situation right now.
No, it's fun. I've been looking forward to this all week. So each of you have really strong connections to the natural world, but it shows up quite differently in your artwork. Sarah, with yours is with your work with animals, Kimberly in your florals and landscapes, and April in your love of trees and roots. So first I'm going to ask Sarah, how and where do you find your nature inspirations?
It's my whole life. So animals is the one thing, as an animal lover, it's the one constant in my life. So quite a few years ago, after art school, after playing with a lot of different mediums, I found I was doing a lot of different work. Even a few years ago, I was doing a lot of abstract work, but I always come back to animals because that's what's consistent for me, that I always care about. So I, a few years ago, decided, okay, we're going back just to animals. So for me, the last few years has been focused on wildlife. And the big reason why I'm focused on wildlife, besides, like, I love seeing wildlife in suburban areas, like bears, coyotes, raccoons, like all the owls, everything. It's just a sign that these animals are surviving despite how we encroach onto their spaces. So it's kind of a championing of the animals. But in the most recent little while, I've also been looking a lot more closely at our relationships with pets, because I've kind of come to the realization that our pets are almost like the gateway to accepting wild animals. And a lot of us have dogs and cats, and we feel a deep personal connection with them. And so I'm kind of looking at, if we are able to connect and, you know, communicate in a way with our pets, what's the difference between a wild animal? We just don't know them, right? So it's kind of looking at our mindsets around animals. So kind of at the moment looking at a blend between wildlife and pets. So experiences and seeing them out my studio window or in my street. And then of course, all the animals that are in my house. And there's a lot of storytelling involved around it, you know, thinking about where did they come from and what do they, you know, what do they experience when they see us? So it's actually one of the great things about online is I'm following a lot of wildlife organizations on Facebook and Instagram, where, you know, there's people with like their wildlife trail cams that post their videos and their photos, which like is a huge influence for one of my bodies of work. And so I'm so delighted whenever I get to go online and see these posts of like, you know, people out in the field are studying different types of animals and our impacts on them, and all of those things kind of absorb into my brain and like compute into work. So, yeah.
Kimberly, now I know that you do other things besides florals and landscapes, but when you're thinking of your work and your plans for the paintings, what are you using for your inspirations from nature?
So I go from one body of work to the next body of work. And I'm trying to organize that a little bit, although I do focus on one for quite a while and then sometimes I go back. So nature's almost always an inspiration now. Since I started picking up my brushes again, like, you know, when I stopped my design career, before I did portraits, and now nature seems to be the biggest influence. So that's correct. So right now, though, I am focusing on being inspired by the West Coast, but not just our West Coast, but also we took a trip in the summer, a camping trip down the West Coast in California and Santa Cruz and San Francisco. And I really took in, well, we were camping, so we were outdoors a lot. So just taking that all in, and then my surroundings, and then the colorful pops of color from like Santa Cruz. And so that's where all my work is kind of coming out of right now. So, you know, landscapes and trees and mixed with abstract and sunsets. And so that's what I'm working on right now. So that's where my inspiration is coming from, the outdoors.
Thank you. Now, April, I've seen so many trees on your Instagram post, real ones.
Real ones, yes. Yeah, I do like to do Instagram stories of my forest adventures, but yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with the forest, and so any chance I get to be in the forest is always, I will take it. So because we have a bigger dog who loves to run through the forest, we spend a lot of time doing that. And I live in Maple Ridge, and there's quite a few nice spots to be out in the forest that are close to us. So luckily my husband really enjoys the forest too. So it's just kind of our family time. A lot of the time is spent in the forest as well. I always feel I can be having the worst day ever, and I just need to go in the forest and take a few deep breaths and I'm good. So it's really kind of my medicine, if you will. So I'm really inspired by all of the things that are happening in the forest. Like there's just all this energy and information being shared all around us, and we can't see it, but it's really cool to think about it happening. And I think it's magical how forests work together. And I think we can learn a lot from how well they work together and how they communicate, and apply that to our own communities. And so I often am thinking about that concept when I'm exploring as well. And I'm annoying to go for walks within the forest because I spend so much time like looking at every little, ooh, look at that. Ooh, look at this. Oh my God, look at the fungus. Look how the roots go this way. So, and I'm always taking lots of photos, and that's often what I'm sharing in my Instagram stories and that. So, yeah, I just feel lucky that I live close to forests, because I actually get a lot of comments from people on Instagram that are like, oh, you're so lucky that you live so close to those kind of areas. And I you know, kind of take it for granted, but then I realize like some people live in places where they can't get to the forest very easily. And I think, oh, wow, like I am really lucky that way. And, you know, the West Coast is so beautiful and we are so lucky here. It's no shortage of inspiration, that's for sure. So I can't help myself with the trees.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. And your exhibition, that you had here is in part of the digital gallery on the artist sessions page. So I hope people will look through all three of your work in that.
I did a really nice job of that. It looks so great. So thank you for putting that together for us. And I hope people visit.
Thank you.
Really cool. Yeah.
Thank you. I just noticed there is a question. Oops, the questions are moving fast and I have to see if I can see them. This is from Verna Brown, and it says, Kimberly, I see a lot of magenta in your florals. Has that color been one that you've always used, or has it been since you started doing the florals?
Definitely since I started doing the florals. And right now my color palette is completely different. Yeah.
I haven't seen your new work, so. And Rebecca Holden says, I'm with you, April. The forest is my happy place also.
Yes.
And Deanna Flake says, I'm the same, out in nature, always finding interesting things. So we've got,
Yeah.
and I know there were some more earlier, and I just can't seem to access them.
I think Deanna was asking what program that I recommended for video editing.
Okay, good,
So,
because
Kelly,
I can't seem to access the earlier questions. So you want to respond to that?
Yeah, so the video editing app that I really am liking right now is called Videorama. It's on your phone. You do have to pay for it if you don't want it to say the little made by Videorama on it. But I want to say it's $5 or less a month. It's totally worth it though. It's a really great app. So it's pretty magical what can happen with our phones right now. Like my husband and I were talking about that because I recently got those gimbals as well, where you attach your phone to it and it makes it so that you take like a very steady video. Like you could run with it. It wouldn't, it's what they use in filming.
Like a steady cam, like a, yeah.
And so that was what we used to film my studio tour. And it was really cool. And I just thought, oh, like we're just so lucky nowadays that there's so much, fairly easy to use technology out there that we can be doing these things ourselves. So yeah, but Videorama is the one that I use. Really good.
Okay. Mm-hmm. April, are you able to see? It says there's 42 comments.
Woo, we're very popular tonight. Look at that.
Yes, and I, for whatever reason, am not able to see them all.
I can see, are you wanting comments or just questions?
I think questions. I know that, yeah.
We can read there's some lovely comments on here. We can read
Okay, yes. I saw some earlier when I looked over, but now I can't read them.
It's funny, like, yeah, they don't, what's very cool is that Rebecca Holden is from New Zealand.
I saw that. I was going to read her. She said she was checking in from New Zealand, and I was going to read that, and then it was gone. So,
it doesn't look like there's any actual questions there, but if anybody has any questions, then go ahead and ask.
Okay. Well, Deanna said thank you for sharing. So I think we're getting pretty close to the end of our time. Do you each want to just take a moment to, I know things are kind of crazy in life right now, and people are going through different stages. I know I'm a lot calmer now than I was in the first few weeks of this. You get to a point where you're doing the best that you can, and you can't be stressed out all the time. So what are the things that are the positives in your life and the things that you're grateful for at this time? Sarah, do you want to start?
Sure. I think the biggest thing is I'm just so happy where I'm at right now. Like, I'm lucky I have a house. I'm lucky I have a studio at home. I'm lucky to be able to do this. And my family and everyone is healthy. So those are the big things for me. And like how lucky that we've had such amazing weather this last few weeks. Like what? Like, yeah, that's like been the greatest things. Even if you can only look out the window, at least it's beautiful out.
Kimberly?
Yeah, I mean, all things aside, of all the stuff that's going on, I am like so grateful right now for so many things. And like, yeah, I have a forest in front of my front yard as well. But just things might be crazy, but my kids are at home and I don't have to drive them around every day 3 times here and there. So my life is way calmer. I'm not teaching. I feel like I'm on a retreat in my studio, to tell you the truth. So I'm very grateful I have a studio in my house. Yeah, there's a lot of things to be grateful for, that's for sure.
April, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly echo all of those things. The list can go on and on. I think when we're comparing ourselves to a lot of other people that are having a much more difficult time than maybe some of us are. One of the things I'm really grateful for is to be living in Canada, to be honest. I think that we've had some good support. You know, I won't get into that, but but I think that, you know, at least we have some support here. You know, the outbreak hasn't been as bad here. We have a good healthcare system, all of those things. And I know some other artists that live in other countries. And I am one of the leaders for Thrive, which is a program for female artists and is a mastermind program. We get together once a month here on Zoom and we talk about, you know, art practices and that. And one of the ladies in my group was from Paris and the other one was from Spain in Barcelona. And listening to their stories during our meeting, I was like, wow, we're so lucky here, because they have basically had all of their freedoms taken away from them. You know, they're stuck in their little apartments with their 2 or 3 children, and they have no outside space, and they're only allowed to go out for half an hour a day. And, you know, the artists are not able to get any kind of supplies, or really not able to keep up any kind of part of their business because everything is closed. There's no postal system. Like, I'm just so grateful that I'm still able to keep my business going as well, because our postal system is working and we do have some freedom to go places. And I put in a really great order at Opus. I called and for my art supplies, and I drove there and I picked it up, and they were so great. I showed my ID at the window and I plunked the bag outside the door, and I was off, and I was just like, well, that was great, you know? So, and I thought, you know, some places artists are not able to do that. So yeah, lots to be grateful for. So can I also share, I know this is one of your other questions that we might not get to, but I just wanted to share it because I thought it might be of help to some of because I think a lot of artists are probably listening. As far as resources, 2 of them, one is Thrive Art Studio. So is a mastermind group, but they also have a lot of free resources. So if artists go to their website, they have a resource section there, and there's some really great articles that are resources for helping out artists with art, business, and practice. And then the other one is an art business coach that I've worked with. Her name is Catherine Orer, O-R-E-R, Catherine with a C. Her business is The Artist Entrepreneur, and right now she's actually started a pop-up Facebook group for artists. It's called The Artist Entrepreneur, Supporting Artists During Uncertain Times. And she's sharing resources there, and she's doing once a week, she does a Facebook Live where she's and wanting to help artists with different topics and that kind of thing. And she has a lot of great things to say and a really great attitude. And I've gotten a lot out of working with her. So I like to share that. And I think it's cool that she's doing something that's free right now for artists, because she really does just want to support artists right now. So a couple of resources to share with everybody too.
That's great. I do have a couple of questions here.
Okay.
And one of them is from Bev Ellis, who is asking.
Your mug. So beautiful. I love it.
Yes, I recognize it. And it's funny because your name came up in her conversation when she was on last week. Bev asked, what is your favorite art piece and why? Of your own pieces. Did I get that right? It says, what is your favorite art piece and why? It says your own pieces, not other people's.
Okay. Anybody?
Oh, I'll show you my favorite right now.
Show us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, my very favorite is in my hall right now. But
Don't go all the way to your hall.
Sarah, do you want to start while she's getting? Oh, here she's back. She's back.
Yeah, I love that.
Ooh.
The mountains, very West Coast.
So there you go. I haven't named it yet.
Oh, maybe we should ask the people.
These are my works.
Have a naming contest. Yeah. Sarah, do you have a favorite piece of artwork right now?
It's always my most recent, because I'm always just in love with my most recent, which is my pangolin drawing back here, because it's always, yeah, every piece I make is like, okay, now my next one will be after. So it's that one, but I like my back wall here is pretty, helps me along.
April?
I was going to say, Sarah, I really love your white line work on your white.
Yeah.
I'm into the white line.
Oh, of course you do.
So I'm always like, ooh, I love her. But that new one that you just did has some really, I love the design, and that's beautiful.
Thank you. Well, we both have white lines.
I know, don't we? Yeah, that's okay. I would actually say that mine right now of my most recent series is actually this painting that's behind me here, which is not showing very well on here, but that's okay. It's called Forest Bathing. And I just feel like I could just step into it and be lost in the forest. And of course, that's one of my favorite things to do. And so I have that one hanging above my couch in my living room right now. And I'm really enjoying it, and just something about the color in it. And I can see the process of it because there's all the kind of paint drips and kind of messiness underneath that I've left on the bottom and the top. And so it reminds me of the process and how much joy it brought me to make it. So I think that I really like looking at it because I'm like, oh yeah, that was really fun to make. I really enjoyed that. So that's my favorite right now. But like Sarah, it kind of changes all the time too.
Oh, okay. Andrea Walters had a question for you, April. And she said, since you mentioned that you're still selling art right now, just wondering if you've been able to reach new buyers or whether you're relying on people that are already collectors.
Yeah, good question. Hi, Andrea. So yeah, I would say of the pieces I've sold recently, they are return buyers. It doesn't mean I haven't been able to reach new people because I actually have found, and maybe you guys have found too, that I'm getting more followers on social media right now. Like my numbers are going up more quickly. And I think it's just because people are more on social media. So that's kind of cool. So I think, you know, just sharing work will always sort of get you new eyes on your work. But yeah, of the work I've been selling, they are all collectors that have already purchased from me, which I'm so grateful for having that following, and that the people that have collected my work are continuing to collect, especially right now. And I just sort of want to put that out there as a blanket message that if you have somebody, an artist or artisan or small business that you really love, like really make an effort to be supporting them right now, because they're the ones that are going to possibly not weather the storm, whether that be, you know, your favorite local restaurant or a little small shop that's selling gifts, or actually really cool. I just bought some small gift items from Coastal Collective, which is a shop in Pitt Meadows close to me. And they, you know, sell all local artisan things. And I wrote them on Instagram, told them what I wanted based on their Instagram story, and they delivered it to my door. So, wow. I mean, I'm finding the service from the smaller businesses in the communities are so great. Like, you know, the restaurants are delivering, the breweries are delivering, the florists are delivering. People are trying really, really hard. And so I think that the more we can be doing to support them, you know, we want them to be there after this. We want all the artists to be there afterwards too. So I understand that not everybody's in a position right now to support other people, but if you are, I would really consider, you know, strongly consider supporting local and the people that you want to be around after this, basically.
Yeah. There was another nice comment from Verna Brown in New Zealand. And she said, you guys are so inspiring. I'm so looking forward to having just my art practice. Seeing you all do it is certainly hopeful. So that's
Verna.
Nice. And I'm sure we must have missed a few things. And I apologize to anyone if we missed your question. Or
there was one from Janet that said, wow, the pangolin, can we see it closer up, Sarah?
Oh, I don't know if my laptop will go that close.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hang on, I can just unplug it. Oh, that's it.
Okay.
It's going unplugged.
Okay, I'm trying to do it from this weird camera angle. Can you see it?
Yeah, I love it.
It's in my Instagram feed too, better.
Can I admit something, Sarah?
What's that?
I don't actually know what a pangolin is.
It is.
I'm hoping that like somebody else out there doesn't know either, so I don't just look really stupid.
It's one of the animals that is potentially the cause of the pandemic.
Oh, so, how fitting.
Yeah. So they figure, it's not certain yet, but they figure it went from a bat to a pangolin, and then a person ate a pangolin. And that's how this all started. So that's why I'm focusing on those animals right now.
See, we were talking about how this is influencing art, and
yeah,
boom, there you are directly.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's inspiring a new series for me for sure.
Love that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, ladies, we've actually surpassed our time for this evening. Thank you. I'm so grateful that you were all able to be here and that you were so engaged in answering questions and participating in this. It's just been a wonderful night, and thank you so much for being
Thank you,
here.
Janice.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, April.
Thank you. It's been so nice to like speak to other artists and like kind of in real life. It's like lovely.
Well, and right now we aren't having those opportunities, so I'm finding I'm really enjoying my Zoom conversations with people because it's the next best thing to being there, I guess.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're lucky to have this. Imagine this happening in a time when we didn't have this technology. It would be even harder, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Oh, well. So for now, I'm going to say thank you to our artists for this evening, Sarah Ronald, April Lacheur, and Kimberly Blackstock for joining us on the artist sessions. Your knowledge, candor, sharing your experiences was very much appreciated. Next Thursday, we have Unkyo Kim for the opening night of her virtual exhibition, The Inner World. So I'm hoping people will be able to join us for that one too. So for tonight, thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you again soon. Good night.
Thank you. Night.
Thank you. Bye.
It'll just end.